You have plenty of folks out there that are screaming and yelling about this and that, blaming Trump for rural hospitals closing, even though they were closing way before he was even president. Here is one of the causes of rural hospitals closing. They don't have the staff to deal with cyber attacks. They don't. Josh Hawley is talking with some experts on this, and they get to the heart of what the problem is and they explain what is necessary. Rural hospitals are already operating at a low budget. Even if they're nonprofit, they don't have much of a budget to deal with cyber attacks. So they can't hire all the fancy people that they need to hire. And I say that as somebody who's got an A plus certification and understands the IT industry pretty freaking well. These hospitals don't have the ability to hire everybody that they need to do to handle cyber attacks. Josh Hawley is talking about this in at congressional hearings. So let's let you hear this. Also, hit like, subscribe if you want to help me out. I'm trying to get to a point where I've got about $3,000. Once I hit the $3,000 mark between Patreon and YouTube, I actually have some things that I'll be able to do better. And if I can get your help, I'll be much appreciated. But let's get into this video clip.
Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. Mr. Garcia, if I could just start with you, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that rural hospitals in particular face from cyber attacks, malicious actors. What do you think, thinking about the Volt Typhoon attack of this last year and a half, what do you think are the most important lessons that we ought to draw from that attack, and particularly if you could apply this to rural hospitals and the challenges that they face?
Well, thank you, Senator. Certainly there are very sophisticated attacks out there from nation states and other sophisticated criminal groups that are beyond the capacity of rural, small, critical access health systems to counter, even the larger health systems. We cannot beat nation states. We did a publication in May called On the Edge. We interviewed 40 executives across 30 states, not just rural, but critical access, FQHC, small practices, asking them, what are your concerns about cybersecurity? How are you prepared to deal with it? And what would you need from the government or from your community to support you on that? And the results were not surprising. They said, we know what to do. We don't have, as Ms. Stevenson said, we don't have the capacity in workforce to deal with this. We don't necessarily need training. We need people. Bring the people in, and we need some support, whether it's financial incentives to invest in better cybersecurity or direct financial support. So there's a lot of, I commend the report to you. There's a lot of recommendations in there for both us in the industry and for the government.
Ms. Stevenson, do you want to add anything to this?
I think that was a great summary. Thank you.
More than 40% of the hospitals in Missouri, my state, are rural hospitals, and about half of those are critical access hospitals. And I just want to underscore something you said, Mr. Garcia, that many of these hospitals have faced some level of cyber attack, and they simply don't have the personnel or the budget to deal with it. They don't have a cybersecurity officer on staff. They don't have the budget to work on turning back cyber attacks. What should Congress be doing to help rural hospitals in particular be able to meet the challenge of malicious cyber actors and the threats that this poses to patients, that it poses to hospital staff, that it poses to the working of the hospital? I mean, what can we be doing to help rural hospitals? I'll start with you, Mr. Garcia, and then anybody on the panel who wants to respond is welcome to.
Well, certainly we've talked about better incentives. When you think about CMS, can they tie some level of reimbursement to better cybersecurity practices. You're doing the right thing. You're implementing the health industry cyber practices that we produced, or the NIST framework. We're going to give you a little bit of a bump on your reimbursement. That's real money. Senator Husted talked about National Guards at the state level, those who can help in what we call a 911 cyber civil defense. How can we rally the community around your rural hospitals who do have the expertise? It's a lower cost option, but where the government can be using its reimbursement authority as leverage, that can be helpful.
Very good. Anybody else want to add to this? Yes, sir, Mr. Weissman.
Well, 2 points. One, unfortunately, I'm afraid that the reconciliation costing rural hospitals Medicaid funding is going to make some of these challenges harder. But two, I wanted, in building on work that you've done, and Mr. Garcia talked about Change Healthcare as a utility, because we have so much concentration in the industry. It is true that rural hospitals are just overwhelmed, but the large companies are not, and they are not investing enough. And there is, I think, a need to impose extra obligations on them, new standards, and absolutely to maintain their liability. I disagree with the suggestions to remove liability. The way they're going to be held accountable if we don't have adequate regulatory standards is through lawsuits that make them pay retrospectively. Better if we could stop it in the first place.
I've introduced a bipartisan bill called the Rural Hospital Cybersecurity Enhancement Act. It does some of the things that you were just talking about, Mr. Garcia. It starts at just a very baseline level, directing HHS to develop a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy for rural hospitals, to look at workforce needs, to look at funding needs. I think this is long past due, and again, I can just tell you, coming from a state where 40% of our hospitals are rural. I grew up in a rural area. I live in a rural area now. I grew up in a rural area. Those hospitals are often the lifeblood of those communities, and they literally save people's lives. And we've got to do more than we are doing now to protect those hospitals, number one, in all of their operations, but also, number two, in helping them from this cybersecurity threat, because they're simply not equipped to deal with it. And realistically, they're not going to be, absent some assistance from the federal government. They do not have the wherewithal on their own. So we've got to do more. I hope that we'll be able to mark up this bill soon in this committee and take it to the floor as a place to start. Thank you all for your testimony, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
People really need to know what is going on. You hear all these people talking about this fancy stuff. Oh, well, they need more money from this, and it. Here's what it comes down to. Seriously, here's what it comes down to. One, you've got big businesses taking over, and everybody's like, well, of course, capitalism. There we go. I can talk. Capitalism. It isn't. What these companies nowadays practice is not laissez-faire capitalism. They've got a new name for it. It's called corporatism. Look it up. They've got a definition for it and everything, and we're not talking about getting definitions from the Urban Dictionary. These are valid economists that are talking about it. So if you hear somebody screaming capitalism, most of the time they don't actually understand economics well enough, and that includes AOC with her fancy economics degree and her lily white background. But this is another leading cause why hospitals in rural areas are having to shut down, because they're constantly getting attacked in the way that they're getting attacked via cyber threats. These cyber threats are trying to get ransom money. It's a very real thing, and it happens. So, this is one of, I would say, three. I mean, the third is they really don't have the profits. Like, no matter what they do, some hospitals are not able to get the profits to be able to get the adequate health care to the patients. It's a fact of life. There are ways to deal with it, but people won't do what is necessary to make sure that these hospitals have the chance to operate that way. Part of it is the corporate environment. Part of it is that people don't actually understand how to be a community anymore. A community hospital needs help. That's why if they go nonprofit, then they can accept donations, work with the community, but everybody's like, well, this needs to be for profit. No, Really doesn't. You would see a far better healthcare situation. All the hospitals that built our America's reputation on hospitals, all those hospitals such as Mayo Clinic and those were all nonprofits. Don't believe me? Look it up. Research it yourself. We need to get, as somebody who is an Adam Smith laissez-faire capitalist, honestly, I think this would be the best means to get rid of all the headaches. Put healthcare into a nonprofit mode. Don't care about the profits, care about common sense. These rural hospitals haven't been operating that way, but this is one of the ways that we can fix it right now. This has been Paul, Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.